Americans' credit score improved from a month ago following a trend of declining delinquencies. Yahoo Finance has an exclusive first look at VantageScore's latest data on consumers' credit. CEO and President Silvio Tavares joins us now with a closer look at the trends he's seeing. Silvio, it is good to see you. And it's a perfect time to have you, Silvio, because listen, we're through earnings season, basically. We had a lot of different data points on the consumer, and investors are trying to get a hold of, Silvio, how healthy and resilient is the consumer right now? What are you seeing, Silvio, in the credit data you have?
Well, the good news is the consumer is actually very healthy and actually improving in overall credit health, Josh. Thank you for having me on. And as you look at through the end of April, the average Vantage score was 702. The lowest Vantage score is 350. The highest is 850. And 702 is a great credit score. And that's where we're seeing the average consumer come in. And it's not just that. It's not just the consumer is actually increasingly credit healthy. Banks are actually increasing their lending. And so we saw originations of new credit accounts, credit cards, auto loans, et cetera. We saw all of those actually increasing through the end of April. All good news, and makes it unlikely the Fed is going to cut anytime soon.
I want to get back to it because what it sounds like you're saying, correct me wrong, is generally things look pretty good, but there's some bifurcation here. And so I'm just interested to get some puts and takes there. Like, what is Silvio elevating some folks higher into the sort of super prime, but pushing others out of that prime tier?
Well, like in all things, the averages sometimes mask two different realities. And that's certainly what we're seeing in the latest insights from our monthly VantageScore credit gauge. Overall, as I mentioned, the consumer's credit healthy, and we've been actually very bullish on the consumer for the most part of last year as others were forecasting the untimely death of consumer spending. That didn't happen, and the data shows us that. So overall, very healthy average consumer. But there are segments showing some weakness, and certainly we're seeing younger, less affluent consumers under stress. Those consumers tend to disproportionately use credit cards. And for most of the other credit products, we did not see an increase in delinquencies, and certainly not compared to pre-pandemic levels, but credit card was an exception. There we're seeing consumers seeing increased delinquency rates, and delinquency rates are actually higher than pre-pandemic. And so those lower income, less affluent consumers are struggling, and we see that in the numbers.
And so you mentioned the banks. I want to swing back on that because what are the banks seeing right now? What do they make of this environment, Silvio, and how are they competing for customers?
Well, this is the big challenge right now because the Federal Reserve wants banks to be tightening credit, making less loans. And we're not seeing that. In fact, we're seeing the opposite of that. Banks are actually increasing their lending.